Hi everybody, it's Alyce-Kay Ruckelshaus from Threshold of Hineni, and I'm here to share about, this is for my grieving vlog, and I want to share about a turning point that I've come to, a corner that I feel like I'm moving around, and I don't have it completely formulated. I'm kind of hoping, it's something that I've been thinking about for quite a while now, but I'm hoping that talking about it here will help me to formulate it better. It's kind of formulated in my mind, but I haven't been able to put it in words. Does that make sense? That's kind of how I am. Things happen in my heart, and I know them, and I have a sense of them, but putting them into words so that I can explain them to somebody else is kind of hard for me sometimes. But once I get it, then I can explain it really well. So I'm hoping that this will help. Anyway, a week or two ago, I posted something on Facebook, and it's this quote by Henri Nouwen, who is one of my all-time favorite authors. He's wonderful. But he says, every time there are losses, there are choices to be made. You choose to live your losses as passages to anger, blame, hatred, depression, and resentment, or you choose to let those losses be passages to something new, something wider, and something deeper. When I read that, it resonated with me. And it resonated somewhat because it was Henri Nouwen, and somewhat because it just rang true. But anyway, but I was struggling with it. So here's what I wrote about that. I wrote, I'm trying hard to let it be a passage. I want Bill to be proud of me, and I want to please God, but I'm finding this very difficult. The last couple of days, I think I've done better, trying to find the balance of missing him, but still moving forward with life. I guess it's hard because when I move forward, I feel like I'm moving away from him. I really don't like that. And what had been happening at that time, I went through, 2 weeks, maybe even a month of really dark depression. There were a few days here and there where I was actually able to get up and do things like write and stuff. But for the most part, I was getting up in the morning and teaching my classes. And then, I get off now with the time change. I get off at 8. And this was still happening back before the time change when I got off at 10. And I would take care of my animals, and then I would go to bed. And I'd either sleep or just lie there and cry or watch Grey's Anatomy to kind of numb the pain. And that's not like me. I'm a go-getter. I'm a very task-oriented person. I have my list that I need to follow, and I have to be able to check things off that list. And it was almost as distressing that I was doing this and not checking things off my list. That was almost as distressing as the grief that was distressing me, because it was like, and I know that sounds kind of trivial, but it's not. It's like I had lost who I was. I lost who I am. And part of that is actually a real representation of what I'm going through, because I have to figure out who I am now. I am not the person that I was before I married Bill. I changed so much through my relationship with him and through our marriage. But I'm not the person that I was while I was married to him either, because we were a team. We were one person together. And now I'm one person alone. And I've seen myself for most of this time as half a person. Since he died, I've felt like I'm half a person, but I'm not. I am a whole person. It's just that now I'm alone without him. And anyway, so the depression really kind of was representative of my struggle with who I am now. Because I didn't really, I'm having a hard time figuring that out. There's two ways you can look at things. Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about how people say there's two sides of the coin, but he says the place to look is actually on the edge of the coin. I wish I had a coin to show you here right now. Let's just pretend like this is a coin, okay? You can look at this side, or you can look at this side. That's the traditional view, that you can look at one of those two sides. Or you can look at this edge, which means you're kind of looking at both sides. It's kind of like, when people say, you either see the glass as half full or you see the glass as half empty. And sometimes people have said that I see the glass as half empty, but I don't. I see it as half full. I just want it all the way full. I believe that it can be full. I don't believe that I have to be satisfied with half a glass of anything. And anyway, so the fact that I was staying in bed for weeks on end was really distressing to me. It's not me. It's not who I want to be at all. But it was like I just didn't have the strength mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually to get myself up and doing things. Okay, so let me just read before I go on. What one of my friends responded. My friend Ginger, who's been my friend since I was at Westmont. We were in college together, and we shared an apartment, and we were in the same dorm section, and we've had a friendship for a long time. She said, maybe you could try to picture him as going just a little ahead of you, taking your hand and pulling you along through each doorway. Yes, you're leaving behind the physical life you had together, but he gave you so much more that was not physical, and that connection is ongoing. And that was a paradigm shift for me. Thank you, Ginger. Because what Ginger helped me to realize is that by moving forward, I'm not moving away from Bill. I'm moving with him. One thing that was really important to us all through our marriage was that in every area of our lives, we wanted to always be moving forward, not moving backwards, not standing still, but moving forward. Even if it was just like a millimeter, we needed to be moving forward. We were moving forward on our dream, even though it seemed at times like it was hopeless. And when he left to go up to Maryland, we were actually at the place where we could see the light at the end of the tunnel of this really horrible time that we had been going through financially. And so, some of the things that it made me realize, okay, it made me realize that, and it didn't make me realize this instantly. It was something that I had to really think through. And before I talk about this, let me just give a little disclaimer. I have never experienced something like this before. I have never lost somebody who was so intensely important to me as Bill was. And so I've never been through this kind of grief. And so I'm trying to figure this out. And even though I feel like what I've hit on right now is like this huge revelation, maybe it's wrong. I don't know. And maybe I'll be changing my mind in a week. I reserve the right to change my mind in a week. Okay? Or whatever. But for right now, it just seems like it's right. Okay, so I thought about this a lot. And so this isn't something that I like instantly came to. It's something that's been developing over the last couple weeks or so. So trying to figure out my identity. And the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm a grieving widow. I'm a widow. That is part of my identity. That is a noun. That is what I am. I'm a widow, period. Okay. Grieving is a verb. Grieving is it's something you do. And while I cannot change the fact that I'm a widow, either I can change the fact that I'm grieving, or I can change how I'm grieving, or what grieving means. And that's the big thing. I think that's kind of the crux of the whole thing, is I can define what grieving means to me. For a few weeks or months, probably closer to a month, I was defining grieving as being so depressed that I couldn't get out of bed. Okay, now I've decided that I'm going to define grieving as examining what I had with Bill, examining the things that he taught me, examining the things that I learned from our relationship, and deciding how those things are going to take me forward. I'm going to honor him by moving forward. Even though I don't have him physically here with me, honoring him by moving forward is not forgetting him. It is not moving away from him. It's moving toward him, because he's done. He's in heaven, and my moving forward in life gets me closer to that. I don't mean that in a suicidal way. I mean it in a really glorious way. It and a lot of these things that I'm saying right now are kind of ambiguous. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do these things. These are things that I need to sit down and really examine. Like one of the things that I want to examine, because next month, December, which starts this coming Sunday, December is huge for Bill and me. It has tons of anniversaries because it has the day that he came to get me in Minnesota, the day that we left Minnesota, the day that we said our first vows, the day that we arrived in Maryland, the day that we said the rest of our vows to each other, and married each other. It's just, we didn't, I don't remember if we really even did anything for Christmas that year. I don't think so, because we both were pretty burnt out by holidays with our families. And so we kind of played down the holidays. The only holiday I told him we had to celebrate was Valentine's Day. And I'm sorry if that offends you if you're a Christian. I am a very deep, strong Christian, but I'm sorry, Christmas just, I was burnt out by Christmas. Anyway, so I think I'm going to do something with my vows in December, maybe even do some talks about those, and how those made our marriage as great as it was. I don't know. But I want to do things that will honor him by moving forward, because I'm not honoring him by spending the day in bed. I'm not honoring him by falling behind on things and not moving forward. That's not honoring him at all. And I don't mean that in a sense of feeling guilty or putting myself down, because I think I kind of had to go through that. And if you're grieving and that's what you're going through, please don't take this at all as saying, get up, get out of your bed, you slime face, blah, 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 or anything like that. That's not. If that's where you need to be, then that's where you need to be. And I think I needed to go through that for a while. It was like hitting bottom for me. And this has a lot to do with my personality too, which may not be your personality. I am, like I said, I am a go-getter. I am a type A to the max. And so not moving forward it's devastating for me. It is just devastating. I've got to move forward even if it's just a tiny bit. And I'm satisfied with just moving forward a tiny bit. But I have to be moving forward to be happy. So I'm not exactly sure what this means. This is what I need to now figure out, is exactly what does this mean for me? What does this mean about who I am? What does this mean about what I need to do? There are a few things that I've done to start moving forward, and I'll share those a different time. And some of them are big. I mean, really big. I am trying to be careful because, like they say, in the first year after you lose somebody like a spouse, you shouldn't make any major life-changing decisions. So I'm being careful about that. I think that's good advice. But I'm moving towards those life-changing decisions. I'm moving to the place where maybe, a year after he died, maybe I will be ready to make those decisions. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not going to do anything, like I'm not going to sell my house or anything like that, before a year's up. And I don't expect to sell my house at all. I expect to live here at this house. I love this house. It's a good location and I love the house. But I guess what I'm saying is I feel like I've turned a corner, and there may still be days of depression. I don't know. I don't want to say that in a self-prophetic way, but I'm just saying it that I want to make it clear that I am not going to get down on myself or think that I'm a failure if there are times when I take 3 steps back instead of a millimeter forward. That's just how life is. And I understand that, and I know that, and I'm allowing that for myself. But it's not my goal. My goal is to move forward. And one of those things is to move forward in getting this book finished that I've been writing for over a year. And book 5 of the Isaiah Cadre series, I'm hoping to finish with the writing this week. And I'm hoping to have it out by the middle of January. So you can be looking for that. I reserve the right to not meet that goal, but it's what I'm working towards. So I guess that's all that I wanted to say. I just wanted to say that I feel like I've turned a corner. I feel like I'm ready to start moving forward, even if it's just a little tiny bit at a time. But I think right now I'm moving forward in great strides. And And then maybe it'll slow down. It probably will, because right now I'm probably moving on adrenaline as much as anything else. Yeah. So it's exciting. And I know that probably you're just watching this just, for whatever reason, for yourself. But if you're my friend and you're watching this, or if you feel an affinity with me, I would really appreciate your prayers. I would appreciate your prayers for guidance, for wisdom, for discernment, for God to hold me back from going too fast. Because I do tend to get really excited about things and move forward. But at the same time, for the most part, that has not been a bad thing. I mean, when I decided to start Contend and Defend, my Bible tournament program that I had, that is no longer in existence because I stopped it because a pastor wanted me to focus on our church instead, and I've always kind of regretted that. I don't blame him, I blame myself. But when I decided to start it, it was an idea that I had, and within a day or two I had started it, and that was a really, really successful thing. I think that one of the things that I need to learn is that I do make good decisions. When I think about things too much, when I overthink them, those are the times that I get scared and I do things kind of halfway. But when I know that something is right in my heart and I go for it, my intuition is good. And that is something that I've learned from this whole thing with Bill dying, because I've learned that I need to trust my intuition. And there's a difference between just, I want this, or my intuition that tells me this is what needs to happen. Because I begged Bill not to go on this trip. And I didn't have a good reason. I didn't have something that I could say this. The best reason I could come up with was, statistically, you've been traveling so much that something's bound to happen. That was the best reason that I could come up with, but that wasn't what it was. I just felt that something was going to happen. And so, when he didn't contact me for 5 or 6 hours, I was a total basket case because I knew something had happened. Even then, I didn't imagine that he had died. I think there was a part of me that knew, but I couldn't admit that to myself. But it did teach me I have to pay attention to my intuition. And usually it's a good thing. I feel like I know that something is what I need to do. And I just need to do it. I don't need to spend like 500 million years analyzing it, because when I do that, then I end up just doing things halfway and they don't go as well. What was I going to say? There's something else I was going to say about that, about intuition. And that's not, I'm not saying that's like I can see the future or anything like that. It's that some people, and usually it's women, and that's why we talk about women's intuition. Some people take in information in a different way. We don't take it in through our brains. And so we're not able to, it takes me weeks sometimes to formulate something to the point where I can say it, where I can explain it in words to somebody, what I know in my heart. But some people take in information a different way, not in a spooky way. It's probably what we see and stuff, but it's not going through our head. And if you read The Highly Sensitive Person, they kind of talk about that a little bit. And that made me feel a little bit more like, okay, this is a scientific thing, not just some weird thing that I'm making up or something. But we take in information and we know something, and we oftentimes can't formulate and say what it is, but that doesn't make it less true. And that doesn't make it less factual. There probably is empirical evidence for it. It's just that that's not the way that we took it in, so we can't show you that empirical evidence. And one of the things that Bill said to me in the last year that he was alive was that I needed to stand up for myself more. I tended, even though he had said from the outset, and he said over and over, I don't want you to be submissive to me, which was a really hard thing for me because of the Christian tradition that I grew up in. And I also told him, half jokingly but half seriously, if I don't submit to you, then I'm submitting to you because I'm doing what you want me to do. But there was something that we did financially that I did not agree with, and but he insisted on, and so I went along with it because I was being submissive, and it caused us a ton of trouble, and it's causing me a ton of trouble now. I'm left with it. I'm left holding the whole ball of wax, and it's going to be okay. It's going to work out fine and everything. It's just that it didn't need to be this bad. But after we were settled in it, he told me, because I said, I didn't agree with you on this. And he said, you should have stood up for yourself. He said, that's what you're supposed to do. I want you to stand up for yourself. If I had stood up for myself in that, if I had really stood strong, we would not have made that mistake. And I don't know if I could have stood stronger in Bill going to Maryland. He was a very stubborn man. And once he got something into his head, it was like you just couldn't get it out of him. And I tried everything except, handcuffing him to the bed or something. But I tried everything to try to get him to stay, and he was determined. So I don't feel like, I could have stood up more for that. But that's the other thing, is that I need to start standing up for what I know I need, for what I know, not just what I need, but it's like, every one of us has a calling that God's called us to. And I have watered down my calling. I have set my calling aside for other people, or because I've let other people make me feel uncomfortable with my calling, or make me feel like it's wrong or something. Or I've let people make me feel like I'm less than something. And like they say, usually that doesn't actually reflect on who I am. It reflects on who they are. And I've realized that in the last couple of weeks as I've been analyzing some of these things, is I feel this way because I allowed somebody to let me feel this way, to make me feel this way, when this really was about them. It wasn't about me. And it's not that I'm a super perfect person or anything. It's just that those particular things aren't true about me. And oftentimes it wasn't even things that people were saying that you're this way. It's, I felt this way. I felt like I was this way because of something that they said or did. I'm doing this to myself. Okay. And so that's part of it, is I need to become a stronger person. There are times in your life when you have the opportunity to change something about who you are. Okay, I'm getting to where this is going to cut off pretty soon. In fact, it might have already done so. Let me stop. This is a good place to stop. So I'm going to stop if it hasn't already cut me off, and I'm going to start a new video. I love you all. I will talk to you later. Do watch the next video, because I think that this applies to everyone. Okay? I love you. Bye-bye.